Hey, this is Bobby from the Goon Cast. On this week's episode, we have Matt Maran. And this week, we're talking about the WWE. So tell us what you think in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more Goon Cast videos.
Who is it?
So what's happened? He's converted Jey Uso now?
Jey Uso beat the shit out of Dana Bryan on
I
SmackDown.
saw that.
For the
Beat the
family.
shit out of him. For the family.
It's
I
good to
only
see Daniel
saw
Bryan back.
the opening segment they did. I'm keeping up, keeping tabs on what happened. I love the first Reigns versus Uso match at Night of Champions. I saw
Oh, that was such a great match, yeah. I thought it was better than Hell in a Cell.
Go watch the Hell in a
Hell
Cell
was
match.
really good too, though.
Great
I haven't
storyline
seen
there,
the-
too.
I haven't seen the Hell in a Cell match yet. I saw the Hell in a Cell with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton.
I think Bailey and
probably-
Sasha had the best
Probably the
one.
worst of the three, but it was still a good match.
Yeah, I
That's
want to
the
watch
result.
Bailey Sasha because I heard that was really good. I
That match
really
was a great
like
match.
Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, but I didn't like the match though.
It wasn't a great match. It was all right. It didn't really have a great flow to
It
it.
felt like a typical Hell in a Cell main event, kind of. Not
It
nothing really
just-
changed.
That's something
There's
special.
just things in there that I thought they did that didn't make sense or could have been made to make more sense. Like,
You know, like how Randy ran to the top of the cage for no reason?
yeah, exactly. You're
Well,
going to the top of the
he had-
cage just
he
so
had the
you can do
weapon.
the spot.
He had the
And
weapon
it's
up
also-
top.
Oh, he had a weapon up top.
He had a weapon
Yeah.
up top. There was something
That's true.
there. But still, I hear what you're saying.
They went up. The reason they went up there was to take the bump.
Of course.
And the new bump
And
is
also-
falling off the side of the cell. It's not.
It's
as-
also
yeah, it's happened. It's
Since
happened.
we've seen Shane McMahon dive off the top, Mick Foley
Kevin
fall
Owens.
off the top, Kevin Owens
When
fell
s-
off the top.
Oh, no. Shane went to jump on him with the second time. He did the one with the Undertaker. They did the
Right.
one.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that
Yeah.
once we've seen that, just
Kevin Owens
being
got
on the
pushed off
side and fall-
the steel cage,
just
though, didn't he?
standing on the side
He
and
did.
falling doesn't
He did.
feel as crazy as it used to. And overall, Hell in a Cell should not be its own pay-per-view.
Absolutely
should-
not.
It
Money
should be
Money in the
three,
Bank being a
probably.
once-a-year thing, the Royal Rumble being a once-a-year thing, Hell in a Cell is a thing that, you should have the angle
they should have
requires the Hell in a
WrestleMania
Cell,
or
not the
something,
not the Hell in a Cell requires the angle.
It's like
Absolutely.
Elimination Chamber. It's got to build up to it every year, right?
Yeah.
Chamber too.
But
Chamber would be so much better if it was random.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
No, I like the Chamber being
The Chamber
a
one's
once-a-year
better.
thing.
Because it
Yeah.
makes for a
It's
good,
better.
create a contender, create a champion thing
Yeah.
in your Mania. It's kind
I
of
like it
nice.
better
Yeah.
random though. Like if it's six guys, that'd
I
be
get
a
it.
great random. Yeah.
But there's also in that match, I think there was a point where they did like a suplex from through a table outside the ring,
I remember.
and so, but they started the match on the outside of the ring too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the
it's a
storytelling.
brawl.
So they've
Randy
already
with that sneak
been.
attack.
So they've already been outside the ring. And then you take this crazy, but if you were in the ring for the first 5-10 minutes, then all of a sudden a suplex is what gets you out of the ring to a table. You take a crazy bump and it's a bigger reaction. As
Yeah.
opposed to it was just another thing that kind of happened.
That's a good point.
Could have been better. I think
And I
Barry
love
Sanders had it
love
there.
both guys too, and that's what was upsetting to me is that
Yeah.
I went into the match wanting to like it a lot more than I did.
Yeah.
you like the
Both
result?
other cell matches are better.
I like the results. I'm okay with it. It would have been cool to see McIntyre come out as champion in
I'm
front
shocked
of
he
the crowd.
didn't win.
Yeah, I was cool with it
Yeah.
either way. Randy's. I wonder where Randy's gonna go, but I'm definitely.
There
I'd
seems
see
like
him as
they're going to
champion.
do a feud with the Fiend with Randy,
Yeah.
which they've done before, so I'm not particularly into. I like both
It
guys.
makes
though.
sense because Fiend goes after guys he has history with. So with Randy getting the
Yeah.
belt, I guess do they want the Fiend getting with the belt? I don't like that. I'm
But
not a
even-
big Fiend guy. But
But even as much as I'm like, I didn't really like that match, I can't think of anything in wrestling. This just always happens. Everyone does horrible stuff because it's with WWE or whatever company. Even for everyone who's an AEW fan, I think they do horrible stuff sometimes. Also, I think
Yeah.
when you're going for some of the as far into the realm of entertainment as they're going, you're going to do some dumb, bad stuff. But
take risks.
Randy Orton's never really been a part of anything that even the bad stuff he's in feels less bad because Randy Orton's in it.
He's
yeah,
a quality performer.
when he was in
Good
that match
point.
with Bray Wyatt, that was actually
Yeah.
pretty good.
I
when
didn't like
he
it. I
kissed
thought,
Stephanie McMahon, it was like a weird big storyline, but it was really good.
and when
He's
they
always
did
had good storylines.
the worms were flashed on the ring, I didn't like that. I thought it was
Oh,
bad.
that
hated
match
but I'm
was
like,
bad.
well,
Yeah, that was a bad match.
but
the feud
Orton was in
good.
it, so it did. Orton was in it, so it didn't feel as bad. Orton makes everything
Yeah.
seem more legit.
Orton
Yeah.
is super. Yeah, he's the most legit guy probably.
That's why he's a 14-time champion. 14, right?
Think he's gonna approach
Yeah.
Flair and Cena? I wonder.
Yeah, he's getting close, man. I mean, why not?
Right there. He's still
I
young,
wonder.
too. How old is he? 30-something?
36
Younger than a
or
lot of
some
guys.
shit.
No, I think
He's-
he may be closing in on 40.
He's probably he's probably up. He's probably like 30.
Yeah, he's probably
39.
30. Yeah.
That's relatively young, though, in wrestling.
He's younger
Hey,
than a
guys.
lot of guys.
He was the youngest world champ, so yeah, he's been at it for a long fucking time.
Got career left there.
Yeah.
Some people don't start until that age.
He just turned 40 this year.
Oh wow,
Oh,
there
really?
you go.
Yeah.
Just great 40. Look at him.
You know who's
Yeah.
really young though? You know who's really young?
I've watched the last 2 weeks of NXT UK, and that's because I think maybe my favorite wrestling show that I was watching consistently in my life was when the hour-long NXT was on the network, and they had the takeovers once every few months.
Yeah.
That was, I think, my favorite wrestling show. In hindsight, I've watched back old ECW, and that's another favorite of mine as a weekly show, just watching each week. But, yeah, NXT UK, I think, is for my taste in wrestling. I like when pro wrestling tries to be like, everyone knows it's not real, but the presentation is as if it's a real thing.
Yeah, I
everyone's
feel you there.
believing it. So when I turn on AEW and they're doing musicals or debates or town
Yeah.
halls and
They
A
got
lot of
some
wink,
bad-
a lot of
matches.
wink, nudge, a lot of shoot moments for no reason.
yeah,
Blah, blah,
but
blah.
also there's stuff in AEW I really Eddie Kingston, John Moxley,
Yeah.
everything MJF did until the last month. I was always a really big fan of FTR.
a lot of the tag
there's-
team stuff's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got some
So
good
there's
guys for
stuff,
sure.
but WWE NXT UK makes you feel like I'm watching a fight card.
I feel you there.
And
Especially
They've
at
been
the
doing a lot of
top.
good stuff.
I
Yeah, they got
came
a good
into
roster.
I came into pro wrestling as a sports fan, and I think there was always kind of two major portions of wrestling fans, which was like the sports fans and the comic book nerds, and the comic book nerds have taken over.
Yeah, I feel you there.
Where it's
Full
all
two,
like
no.
dumb, like anime type things, where it's like we're just gonna have a dance out of nowhere for no reason. I'm like, that's not why I ever watched wrestling. There was weirdness and silliness, and I grew up with weirdness and silliness in wrestling. I grew up with the Attitude Era. Undertaker
Yeah.
came with the first thing. So I like the fantasy, and I like that it's not – I'm getting something different than I am from getting –
Yeah, you can't have too much of it though. Yeah.
Yeah, but
No,
I
you
get
got- you got-
something different than when I'm watching UFC. That's what makes me watch it. But also, if WWE went the route of promoting themselves in the business model of UFC instead of the business model of – like entertainment or SNL, I think
Yeah.
they'd still have more fans because everyone just says now, well, people watch less of everything. I'm very passionate about this, by the way. That's everyone
I love
says,
it.
well, the reason the ratings are so low is just because people are watching so many other things. But the ratings haven't dipped by that much in baseball, football, basketball. Every athlete in every other sport since the 90s is making way more money than they were then. Adjusted for inflation, pro wrestlers are not making that much more money now than they were 30 years ago.
Yeah, for
Is
sure.
WWE, though? Because they're
Even
selling
in
more global
WWE.
now.
Well, the company itself makes more money than ever because they're so more international now. They have all these different TV deals, blah blah blah. But
Yes.
That's what
But
I'm
the
saying,
wrestlers-
yeah.
like Steve Austin was probably making a couple mil in '99. The top wrestler is still only making a couple mil in 2020.
And
Yeah.
not just that, WWE, when I say pro wrestling is getting less people watching it than ever, WWE is doing better than WWE has ever done before. But the pro wrestling industry as a whole has less people watching than ever before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
In
for
the
sure.
United States, but maybe not globally, though. Just
Yeah,
because WWE's
globally.
Really?
WWE is more popular globally.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Maybe in some
Well,
countries
like,
it's more popular. Maybe in a few, but you know,
There has
a lot of the
been-
major countries. Like
there's
in the
been
UK,
a few-
though,
There's a
nowhere.
few countries that, yeah, maybe in certain, like Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia
Yeah.
didn't have pro wrestling and they do now. But in the 80s, you had like 75% of the television in Memphis would be turned on to wrestling when it was on. And that was the case in every different place in the country. So everyone wasn't watching the same wrestling, but pro wrestling as a industry, sport, whatever you want to call it, was being watched by more people 30 years ago by far than it is now.
yeah. It has
think-
that MLB thing where it's
Maybe,
the
though.
market. It's the
Were
market.
people in like Russia watching pro wrestling like 50 years ago, or in like Africa, or like
Well, 50
Middle
years,
East?
that's a totally different thing. But 10,
Or-
20 years ago, yeah, they probably were.
maybe
Yeah,
not
I'm
as
not
much
sure.
as now.
WWE
Not
has
as
made it more
much.
global. WWE
I think-
has made it more global. I'm talking in America more so than
Yeah,
worldwide.
definitely. Well, yeah, if it's America, then definitely, yeah, more people watch America.
Well, yeah, they haven't had a megastar since in the 80s. They
Yeah.
had Hogan, in the 90s they had Austin and Rock, and since then it's been a decline. I mean, Cena was
Yeah.
big, but he didn't
Yeah,
really
Cena was
reach
never
those
that
heights
big.
until later
Yeah.
on.
Corona,
but
the
they
biggest
also-
part of his
Now
movie
than he
career.
was when he was in
But also the
Not
way
fair.
their system is set up. That was what I had such high hopes for AEW was they were going to be operating outside the WWE system where they allow guys to kind of do their thing. It was like no more scripted promos. But then I just watched a scripted musical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
not
that
even
is
that.
script.
Before the Broadway musical, they were going back and forth, like arguing about the steak and which is going to be more rare and not.
Well, that's-
And it was scripted in a way that no people talk like that, and it was everything I didn't like about WWE.
Well, that's the thing. There's more creative freedom, but that's the thing. People think creative freedom obviously means better. Like these WWE writers are there for a reason. Like you try to create the best thing regardless of it.
There needs to be a middle ground. The thing is, I used to wrestle, and I know pro wrestlers, and some of them should never be in a creative position.
Yeah. Honestly, they just need stars. However they create stars.
Daniel Bryan's on the
Probably
writing team for SmackDown now.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's cool, and he's like a good guy to have. He is good.
Yeah.
He's a good mind for the business or whatever.
I agree. I think it's just their system is so structured that it doesn't really allow for a breakout person like a Stone Cold or The Rock or even John Cena.
I feel like it could. I feel like they just don't have it. And
I feel like
I think they had it with Reigns, and we're seeing now what Roman Reigns could have been doing this whole time.
Reigns is definitely Reigns is peaking now, and he's probably. I think Reigns. He could probably go into fucking acting. He'll probably be bigger in a few years too.
Just with the Fox stuff though, being with the NFL and like that type of cross promotion,
it's a good promotion for sure.
Without going into movies.
Yeah, it's upsetting because I grew up loving pro wrestling, and now it's like it feels like the industry is at the worst place that it's been in my entire life. Less people talk about it than ever, and the things that get shared online as the cool things are things I'm ashamed to show non-wrestling.
I think wrestling is a so much better place than 10 years ago. Wrestling 10 years ago sucked.
Yeah, I think it's way better now.
10 years ago.
5 years ago, maybe not 10 years ago.
Oh, I think 5 years ago was way better than 10 years ago too.
I think 5 years ago was better than now, but only because of the virus. I think everything's kind of just
the virus makes sense
the
completely
virus,
different.
Yeah,
the virus, not counting that. I mean, in the last few years, in like the early 2000, between 2010, 2014 or so, yeah, that was a rough time. Before the time right before the Daniel Bryan run.
Before NXT came back. NXT's been around.
That's true.
Yeah,
Japan got better around that time too. Japan's been great since around the mid-20s.
5 years. I'm thinking it's 5 years ago is not when I'm saying it is. Like,
it's weird.
We're thinking the same time period. I'm just getting my math wrong.
Like 2010 was a terrible time around then, and 2016.
No, honestly, 2011 I think was one of my favorite years in wrestling. That was the summer of Punk year.
You think?
Oh, yeah.
After that is way up.
I wasn't watching it at the time.
No, in the beginning, yes. After that is when it went downhill. But in the beginning of that year is Alberto Del Rio. It's Edge's retirement.
I hated Del Rio.
Christian's title run versus Randy Orton. Zack Ryder had his Intercontinental Champion. Cody Rhodes was doing fun stuff. I remember the end of that year there was the picture of all the young guys, the future of wrestling. CM Punk was world champ. Daniel Bryan was a champ. Daniel Bryan cashed in that year. And then the next 2-3 years, just like it all went away.
I think when the Shield came in is when it got better. That was like 2013.
But I mean, still overall, it's kind of like the line goes a little bit from like when we were kids to, and even before we were kids, it was as much as we love the Attitude Era. Wrestling was much bigger 10 years before that.
Yeah, WrestleMania 3 might have been like the peak.
Yeah. But it's been steadily a line going down, but going like up and down as it's going down. So there's like an up is 2011, but it's still way lower than it was 10 years before that.
As they lose a percentage of saturation, they just keep expanding the pool.
Yeah. Like at this point, 4 million people watch Monday Night Raw, which is objectively, as a show that's a weekly show, great. But some of the lowest Raw's ever been. AEW tops out at 1 million. NXT also. SmackDown's about 2 million. Like this is
2.
And this is also all.
Rings really are down for everything though. I mean, rings being down is kind of
World Series.
Last year it was still around that for WWE.
It gets lower every year. Like it.
Yeah, but but it doesn't get lower every year for sports. It gets lower every year.
It kind of does though.
Sports are kind of also the exception. I mean,
but
WWE,
but WWE could have been that, but they went the direction of being an SNL.
I don't think they could be sports.
I think they could have if 20 years ago they decided to go that direction.
20 years ago,
So
they were at their peak.
But what's the direction?
And they were doing
Yeah,
completely different
They're
stuff.
never going to be a real sport. They're never going to be.
WWE
No, they're
at their
never going to
peak
be a
in
real sport,
2000.
but they could present themselves and go the business model of a UFC.
But
They
people
do.
still know it's
They
fake,
have
so
the
people
app.
won't
They
give a
have the
shit.
better model, honestly.
No, you would. There were people have known it was fake since the 40s,
Yeah, but still, I mean, it's never going to be treated like a real sport because it's not.
but they did treat it like one for years, and it's sold out. They did shows in Dallas Cowboy Stadium back in the day.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, look at the Attitude Era. It was probably the least sport-like of any era. It was the most popular one. It was Shock TV.
I don't think the Attitude Era was less sport-like than now.
I'd say so, but I mean,
It was
neither of them are sport-like.
It was sport-like or serious. It was presented as a more serious fight. All the storylines and everything was presented as more serious.
I don't think so.
Things
Then now,
Maybe that's the
things had
difference.
more gravitas, but that doesn't mean they were treated like.
that's
They
just
were
it was
treated-
bigger overall.
When you watch the show from beginning to end, it was treated like a real thing you were watching, even though you knew it was entertainment. The same way you watch Game of Thrones, it's presented as a real thing.
I mean, I
Now
wouldn't
it's
go with
not even
that direct
presented as a
comparison
real
at
thing.
all. I don't know. I don't think it's
It's
that
more of a
different.
wink. I think that's just the trend in general. Everybody
there's
kind of winks at the camera.
There definitely are a lot more shitty winks nowadays. I'll say that. Well,
Yeah,
even then,
that's what I'm saying is the comic book nerds have taken over.
No, you're not wrong.
You're not wrong. Yeah.
They absolutely could have presented AEW when they came out said they were going to be a more sports-based presentation.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah,
should
no.
watch Raw Underground would be really good for you. I think you would like. It's a
That
much more
was more
gritty.
sports based.
I don't like being a hater, and I knew what that was going to be, and I saw a clip of it, and I didn't watch any of it. I don't watch things that I'm not going to like.
I mean,
Well,
it has
that's the
entertainment
gritty
moments, but it's
It was
not.
hit or miss.
That's what
Moments
kind of
were-
happens,
it's not
though.
It's not that good.
When you try to be serious with it, is it comes off as Raw Underground.
No,
Bit.
Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso was serious.
That's true, I guess.
It's-
Depends on what.
Eddie
Yeah,
Kingston
well,
versus John Moxley is serious. Everything MJF was doing was serious. NXT, when it was the hour-long show, was serious. Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano was serious. Daniel Bryan was serious. All the best things that we remember in wrestling were things that were taken seriously.
The Wizard. Goons.